I'd like to call the September 9th, 2024 Warwick County School Corporation Board of School Trustees meeting to order. And as you stand and we have a moment of silence followed by the pledge, please remember we have two former teachers who passed away over the last couple of weeks. Bob Krantz, who was at Oakdale, and Teresa Hooker, who was at Newburgh. And I would like to say if there are any teachers or anyone listening, I do this out of just my memory and what I see, and sometimes I don't want to miss anyone is what I'm trying to say. So if you know of someone who we should remember that's been with our school corporation and touched our students, impacted them, please let us know and we'll mention them as well. It's not my intent ever to overlook anyone. So please stand. We'll have a moment of silence remembering these two, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item number 3, which is patrons' concerns, and I don't see anyone signed up. So we will move on to agenda item number 4, school spotlight, Linville Elementary, and Mr. Gene Raber. Dr. Redmond, do you have anything to add to that?
Nope, just welcome to Mr. Raber.
Guys, this is what you look like when you come straight from a tennis match, high school tennis match, to the board meeting. I tucked my shirt in and I tried to remove my hat here. I have 4 distinguished guests with me this evening I'd like to have come forward. I have some students that are going to tell you a little bit of a background about Linville Elementary School. And I'll let you applaud for them after we're done, because I know that they'll do a wonderful job. They'll probably do much better than I. But starting out, we have Hannah Klump. We'll just give them a little wave there. And then we have Brooklyn Coley, Avery Allen, and Ryan Hornby. All right? So take it away.
Mr. Raber, you may want to pull the mic down for her.
Got a little step stool.
Okay, let's do the mic test.
Linville faculty and students share pride in the community values of education, character, and family. Linville Elementary School excels in academics and student achievement. Students at Linville Elementary frequently score well above the ISTEP averages. Our students and faculty are proud to have been designated an Indiana Department of Education 4-star school several times in the past few years. Linville Elementary School's mascot is a Spirit of St. Louis, the airplane flown by Charles Lindbergh, the first solo pilot to cross the Atlantic Ocean. Lindbergh's nickname was Lucky Lindy. The Linville Lindys exemplify the spirit and bravery which carried Lindbergh through his daring voyage. Linville students are encouraged to share Lindbergh's work qualities in pursuing academic and personal endeavors.
Next up, we have Avery Allen.
Linville Lindy School has close ties with our community. Our school is a host site for community fundraisers and community festivals. The Linville Lions Club sponsors our end-of-year awards day program. Each September, we host our Grandparent Lunch Week, where the grandparents or grandparent of each student can come and enjoy eating with their grandchild. Additionally, each November, students, faculty, and staff present a memorable Veterans Day program, which may community veterans and community members attend. During the holidays, many students from our school also participate in the annual Linville Community Holiday Parade, and student council members spearhead the canned food drive to collect donations from needy families in our community.
Brooklyn Coley.
The Linville Elementary Parent-Teacher Organization is very active in supporting our students. PTO sponsors many activities, events such as spring carnival, Dr. Seuss's birthday celebration, student dances, and the end-of-year field day. Additionally, PTO donates party snacks and offers money to support individual classroom instructional needs as well as various school improvements.
And we have Ryan Hornby as our last speaker.
Students at Linville have many opportunities to be well-rounded individuals. Lindy's sports team rise to the challenge of taking on larger schools while portraying exemplary sportsmanship. Linville Elementary has won or placed runner-up in several Warwick County sports tournaments in the past few years. Students also participate in extracurricular activities such as student council, dance teams, robotics, music club, and Little Hoosiers Historians Club. Many students at our school also take opportunities to give themselves by supporting philanthropies such as Dolly Parton's Imagination Library and the Easter Seals Hopathon. The Student Council also volunteers at Community Soup Kitchen each year to lend a helping hand to others.
And Ryan is also going to read our acronym mission statement, which Mrs. Wilhelmus will very well remember. It's SOAR, like Charles Lindbergh soared in the spirit of St. Louis.
We encourage Linville Elementary students to soar daily in their quest to become independent, productive United States citizens. S. Succeed in lifelong learning. O. Obtain knowledge and life skills. A. Achieve academic potential. R. Respect yourself and others.
All right, we have Ryan Hornby, Avery Allen, Brooklyn Coley, and Hannah Klum. Thank you, boy and girls. All right. Now you get to hear me, or have to hear me, I guess, after the good kickoff. So it's kind of emotional this evening because I have one teacher who is still teaching at Linville Elementary School when I arrived in 2003, and she's here tonight. It's Mrs. Mindy Green. I have a very dedicated team of teachers and staff. Everyone, including the custodian, the cooks, are here for kids, and that is what we truly are for. I have been the principal now for 21 years. Where did the time go? I look to Jane because Jane was my predecessor. Jane was the principal at Linville Elementary for 7 years, I believe, before, and then moved up and hired me, and hopefully it was a good hire, I hope. If not, I'm still learning just like the kids are too. So our belief.
We all learn at different rates. Mr.
Yes,
Ritter.
I know. Yes, some of us are excel. Some of us excel, Dr. Redmond, and some of us are the blackbirds. But that's okay. I want to let you know, at Linville, we really do look at the whole child. When I became the principal at Linville, our free and reduced lunch rate was in the mid-20s for the number of free and reduced students. This year, and it's still growing because I still am calling parents to reapply, it's 52%. So more of our students are on free and reduced lunch than are paid, qualified to pay. That does make us a Title I school, and we are what I consider a high-achieving Title I school because we are uniquely a four-star school several times in the past, but also we have quite a few kids with trauma. And what I really want to talk about tonight is, and I'm not going to say the brand name, but it's a three-pointed star. And this global company, their mission and each point of the star in their logo was to be the best company and dominate on land, air, and sea. I take that three-pointed star and I explain to parents, especially primary parents, that two of those legs are very important that support what I consider the upper leg being academics and life success. And they are social, emotional learning, and behavior, and responsibility. Without those things, academics cannot be effectively measured, achieved, and so we really do care about relationships at Linville Elementary School. And the more I'm at this, it's all about relationships. If a parent doesn't trust us or know that we are in the best interest of their child, they question that and they're tentative. And so it's all about that. We make sure every morning that our kids are loved, fed, safe, and then they can learn. Those are our orders. And kids know that and feel that. And our community is very supportive of education. Our kids are wonderfully accepting of new students, of those that may have challenges in the physical or academic learning realm. And I'm ever so proud of our kiddos. The group that was just up here can tell you we've got two main rules at Linville Elementary School. It's to use common sense and to use common courtesy. And it's kind of like everything I learned in kindergarten. But if you go live your life by those two main rules and apply those at different stages of your life, you will be successful. And we really do hit on that. I have to brag on my faculty and staff. We participated, we were one of the 3 schools, I believe, this summer that did the Sun Meals program, the distribution. And that was one of the highlights of my summer. I was fortunate enough to be able to have in my schedule the time to get to the cafeteria and help distribute food. And many of my teachers and staff volunteered their time this summer to help the custodian or the kitchen staff. And we just had a blast. It was just a lot of fun. And we had so many compliments. And I want to commend Shanae Rao. She is excellent. She and our cafeteria manager at Linville, Patty Feldmeyer, had everything just organized. And the only complaint that I got was that the line was out into the S-curve. And that's just a testament. We kept it moving, but that's how many we served. We served about 2,400 meals each time that we held that. So, yeah, it's a lot. One of the most rewarding things I think that Patty was told whenever mom drove up was, "Thank you. Because of you and this program, my students can eat a nutritious meal for the next 5 days." And that goes right there. Mentioned that 52% was our, as of last week, free and reduced lunch. We have several community partners that we're proud to partner with at Linville. Youth First. The Youth First organization provides a half-time social worker for us, but they also bring to us quality programming like Owl's Pals. Owl's Pals is a kindergarten, first grade program that involves puppets, and the choices that the owl makes show how that impacts his friendships and his character. We also are fortunate to have the support of Alcoa, Kaiser Aluminum, and Toyota TMMI for STEM activities and robotics. The Warwick County Health Department, we partner with them in getting our student immunizations and also faculty and staff flu shots so that they don't have to drive to the clinic. They can come and be on site and not miss any more than just getting stuck with that and back to class, right? The Eugenia Reed Irrevocable Trust, the Christian Science Trust here in Boonville, has been very good to our school. They helped us develop a reading garden last year, and our courtyard is beautiful, thanks to so many people that support our endeavors. Linville Volunteer Fire Department, Junior Achievement, and the Tecumseh High School Future Educators. Of course, our local churches, they are restarting what used to be called Lindy Sunrays, but it's a Good News Club now, and they're starting with first and second graders for 6 weeks. They'll have religious ed after school with volunteers. All right, so we've said use common sense and common courtesy. Our focus is on character and growth. When I mean growth, I mean not only literally physical growth, but also social, emotional growth. So many times nowadays, students are coming to us in kindergarten and really are not ready to socially engage. And I've had 3 parents already this year tell me, my son or my daughter was born right before COVID, so we didn't go out, and it's been quite a challenge. And as Mrs. Green can attest, and Mrs. Jaeger and Mrs. Horn who are here, we work hard. You have to work harder than the kids a lot of times, and it's paid dividends, but we're getting there. I think maybe, by Halloween this year, Mrs. Green, we'll have everybody in line to really, I'm kidding. Kickstart Kindergarten, by the way, has been a wonderful program for us. It allows us to engage those students in what it is to be in school and then do some academics. And I continue to encourage you to support that program. It's been a real blessing, and it's been a very good outcome for our early learners as well. So growth, as I talked about, was the 3-point star. Supporting the academics are the social, emotional learning, and the behavior, which is it precipitates in participation and student effort. So we want students to, if they're a high-achieving student, to continue to grow. If they're at 98%, 99%, we still want to push them to continue on. This year we have a 4th grader who attends our 5th grade math classes. So we're trying to think out of the box and do things as we can. Being a small school, it presents quite a challenge to schedule things, but we do a very good job with that. I want to mention the Linville PTO, best in the county. No apologies. Sorry, not sorry. They do, as one of the students mentioned, they sponsor field day. They do popcorn and Kona Ice Snack Day. Today was a Kona Ice Day. Awesome things. They sponsor room parties, dances. We have dances, and I have kids from Tecumseh come back and say, your dances were so much more fun. We had such a good time, because the teachers, and we all dance too and just have a good time. They sponsor a dance in the fall and spring, a spring talent show, a spring carnival, helping hands, whether that means running off papers, maybe reading with or listening to kindergartners read to build their fluency. And of course, background screen volunteers do that. We also have a fall and spring family fine arts night. It's very well attended. And our PTO provides $150 per teacher each year for additional things for their classroom of their choice. So it's more than scores. It's about that and growth. iRead last year for us, this is the 3rd grade students, including special ed students whom we know have challenges reading at grade level. 93.9% of our students as a whole passed iRead last year. The previous year we were at 100%. That just speaks testament to my special ed teacher, who's over 6 grade levels and has quite a caseload, but we are all in it together, and we just get better and better. I've been proud of the hires that I've made in the past 21 years, and it makes me very proud to be at the school where I grew up as a Linville Lindy, and to continue the strength and the abilities of our students in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rayburn. Thank you, Mr. Rayburn. The Lindys, you guys did a fabulous job presenting. You did very well. Thank you for doing that tonight.
Mr. Rayburn, my grandson come home and said he had a super fantastic day today.
We can say if they have, we're calling it a 2 thumbs up day.
Yeah.
How many, because we kind of, how many you're gonna have, is it 2 thumbs up? And they'll see me in the hallway and they'll do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
And you're welcome to leave
Yes.
or you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. Thank you. So good to see you. Agenda item number 5, or excuse me. Right, we're going to. Yeah. We will recess our regular. Okay. Okay, sorry. Okay, our agenda item number 5, consider approving the following routine items: the school board meeting minutes of August 26th, and approving the claims and signing the docket for September 9th. Dr. Redmond.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilhelmus. The routine items include approving the minutes of the school board meeting held on August 26, 2024, and approving the claims and signing the docket for September 9th, 2024. I recommend the board approve the routine items as presented.
We have a motion by Mrs. Metzger, a second by Mr. Mosby. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item 6, consideration of items for board action. And at this time, we are going to recess our regular board meeting and open a public hearing on the proposed 2025 budget, capital projects fund plan, and bus replacement plan. Members of the public will be given an opportunity to speak on these proposed items, and once that's complete, we will return to our original agenda.
Mr. Armstrong.
Mr. Armstrong.
As Ms. Wellman said, this is a budget hearing. I'm doing a presentation about the things that are taking place in our budget, and our spending, and our plans, et cetera. But the idea is that it's open to the public to ask questions for clarification. So as I speak, feel free to at any point ask a question or ask for something that gives you more clarification on what I'm talking about. The bus discussion, or the budget discussion is going to center around 4 areas. One of them being the budget as a whole, but also the capital project plan, which talks about our facilities and all the work we need to maintain them. One of them is the bus replacement plan, which, as the words say, talks about the number of buses that we have to replace each year. And then the debt service, which is a discussion over the amount of debt that the school corporation has and when it will be paying off or not paying off. That will start with this little section here.
Mr. Armstrong, could you stay at the mic? The people can't
For the
hear
benefit of the
you for
public.
the benefit of the recording.
That's gonna be
Sorry,
tough for
thank
me.
you.
It's hard.
I will.
It is hard. to
You
get back
can
into the
dance.
lapel.
I will attempt to stay at the mic.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
You might put in this budget one of the clip-on mics.
Yeah, maybe. I actually might have that in there now. I'm going to start with estimates of cash balance. A school corporation, when you talk about the financial situation, one of the things that's most important is the actual cash you have in hand, as opposed to a typical accounting system where there's an accrual. Our cash really paints a really good picture of where we are. And you can see in the slides here, I've painted a picture up through 2024 where our cash balances are in each of the funds. Some things that are important to note. Our education fund, if you look at 2022 or 2021, we were at $12.6 million in the fund balance there. We're currently over $20 million. Now, during a very short period of time, our cash balance has escalated. That was intentional. During the COVID era, there were a lot of federal funds allocated, known as the ESSER funds. We made sure that our spending of those lasted for as long as possible. I've got a purchase order for the final $76,000 of our ESSER funds on my desk, so we will have spent it out this month. So during that time, you get this money that is one-time money, and if you build your expenses for all the additional staffing and the additional supplies and things, if you're doing that and you're not able to eliminate all of those expenses at a single time, you want to make sure that you've built up your cash balance so that you can gradually bring those back into your normal spending patterns, which is what we've done. And it's important to look at in 2024, my prediction for December 31st is an $18.9 million cash balance in the education fund. And over the next few years, 25, 26, and 27, and I'm saying reasonable predictions, and I'm going to talk about some of those here in just a minute, our cash balance in that education fund the amount that it goes down will get smaller until it kind of levels out. In 2027, we should probably settle somewhere in the 15 millions, and that's where it should stay. That's a really good number, financially strong, but it's more realistic of where we are in today, but we've got some expenses that we will wind back down over the next few years. The operations fund, the cash balance in it, this year, as you can see in December of 2024, we are going to end around 8.8 million. Next year, I expect that to be back up over 10, and that's about where we maintain that. That's a combination of 3 funds from the past. It's operations, it includes capital projects, transportation, and bus replacement now. And about $10 million is where we try to maintain that fund. We'll be leveling that out next year. Debt service, a few years ago, the legislators made some changes in the law that does not allow you to maintain a large cash balance in debt service. We basically get 15% of the debt that's forecasted over the next 6 months beyond your final payment in the budget year. And so you can see a pretty good decrease in the cash balance in debt service. We took a dip in tax rate one of the years, and we spent that debt service cash balance down. And it will hover in between that 400,000 and 600,000. Rainy day fund, again, these things are affected based on, if, like in this case, an emergency arose. We have some planned spending in rainy day that we go to each year. But generally speaking, if there's no emergencies, we'll see a small decrease or small increase occur each year. School lunch fund, and I've picked these funds intentionally, but the school lunch fund is another one that during the ESSER era, there was quite a bit of extra federal funding coming into the lunch accounts in their budget. But as you can see, at the end of this year, they're going to drop down their cash balance. Now, I'm showing them going back up, but I'm also predicting an increase in school lunch next year. So that's how that number is going to go back up. Textbook fund, as you guys may or may not be aware, Indiana last year eliminated the textbook rental. And so we no longer collect money in the textbook fund, but the textbook fund doesn't actually get eliminated until December 31st of this year, which accounts for a little bit of the increase in the cash balance in the education fund, because that money will be moved to the education fund, and all costs associated with textbooks will become an expense of that account, or that fund. Questions about any of that? Okay.
The school lunch fund, you have going up the last 2 years there?
Yes.
Is that for expenses or is that for more students?
That's actually the cash balance going up based on the fact that we try to maintain, we're going to try to maintain between 1.5 or 1.5 and $2 million cash balance in there. And I mean, again, under the assumptions that we continue to spend similarly to the way we have been, we will intend, our intention will be to get that balance to those numbers. Now, when you talk about cash balance and the status of the school corporation, you have to take into account the things that affect that, and more than anything is staffing. As employees account for a very, very large portion, salary and benefits of your budget, staffing changes. And I bring this to light because of, and I've taken some years out of there. I've got this same document that goes back to 2003, but what I've done is I've pulled some important years out of here. 2016, Warwick County had 10,228 students. And if you go across in that blue highlighted area, you will see that we had 599 teachers, 11 social workers, SEBAs, 15 counselors, or 16 counselors, and you can go across the blue lines and see all the different numbers. And in the last 8 years, which the green line shows, the one that's highlighted in green, that is just the past 8 years. We've gone up one school, but we've gone down 428 students. So our enrollment during the past 8 years has been on a gradual decline. During that same time, we've added 2.5 administrators. Down 428 students, we added 59 teachers. We added 14 social workers and SEBAs. And you go across there, the different positions we've added. In most of the categories, we've added employees while our enrollment is going down. Now this, yes?
What categories, like English as a second language, is that special ed or is that just different?
It's actually just included in the teacher numbers. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so what is indicative of that is of course, if you really look closely at this, you can see during the last 4 years, those numbers have jumped dramatically. During the era of COVID and the latent effects of COVID, the student needs have been greater, the social emotional needs have been greater, the academic needs, the catching up, the remediation, all of those things have taken place, giving us a desire to create smaller class sizes, have better ratios. And so during the time when the number of students is going down, we're increasing our staffing. Now, I say that because that's one of those things that affects your spending, of course, and your cash balances. So what I would say is, when we're talking about staffing over the next couple of years and the things that are going to affect our budget, we're very intentional about our staffing, but we're probably going to take a look and be more intentional about the areas, rather than looking at the areas in which we have new staffing needs, but some of the areas where maybe we have some staffing that we can reduce so that we can offset some of those costs. In addition to that, of course, not just your staffing itself, but the salary of that staff. And this is a chart, and again, I'm showing you how the numbers were derived. This is a lot of information, but it's really to get to the bottom here, which is the things that have taken place. Over the past 14 years, when you talk about salary increases, the average teacher salary increase for the past 14 years has been 4.34%. Now that's made up of, in the past, we had pay raises plus the increment that was built into the schedule. We developed a new compensation model. We got compensation factors, et cetera. But the average for those 14 years has been an increase of 4.34%. The average administrator increase and non-certified increase. Administrators, the average has been 2.21% over the past 14 years, and the non-certified salary increase has been 2.4% over the last 14 years. So when you start talking about your cash balances or the financial status of the school corporation, you've got to talk about the assumptions you're going to make. And one of those assumptions would be, well, two of those assumptions. One would be staffing. We're going to continue to staff the areas we need. Secondly, we're going to continue to try to pay our people wages that make them want to continue to work for Warwick County Schools. Health insurance is another one of those things that we look at on an annual basis. Get back to that sheet. And what I found interesting is in 2011, the contributions for our plans were $65, $77, and $8,200. When you fast forward the 14 years, the contributions are up 50%, 81%, almost 82, and 107%. Now, that's the corporation's share. The employees for Warwick County Schools in the past 4 years have realized almost a zero cost gain in the amount that they're paying. But of course, if the employee is not paying for increases, the employer is. So we've been paying for those increases on the most part, and we've had some very good performance on our claims to premiums. But again, when you start talking about your dollar amounts and where your cash is going to lie, is another one of these expenses that can add up to a lot of money real quick. Now, on the flip side of that is the revenue side from the state tuition support. Now, Mr. Grimes and I had this discussion earlier. Those little boxes actually have words in them, but transitioning from a PowerPoint presentation to a Google slide, some of the things are lost. But what it is that circle outlines a multitude of, if you can see the little chart here to the side, I don't know if you can see that, the areas of tuition support, the funding from the state that helps fund our education fund. And 100% of this money that's gathered here goes into our education fund. And it's made up of, and again, why I reference student counts, the number of bodies that you have in these various categories. And I've got some numbers there. The amount per student that you get if you're, for a single student in Warwick County to educate them for a year, the tuition support is $6,681. We also get a complexity multiplier. Well, when you multiply out and identify the higher level needs of the student population, our complexity is another $300. So basically, we get $6,981 a year from state tuition support to educate each of our students. Now, that number is up about $94 between those two numbers from last year. The state tuition formula had $8.8 billion, or yeah, $8.84 billion. Now it's $9.03 billion in the budget, which is a $190 million increase. Now, Warwick County Schools, with our almost 10,000 kids, accounts for almost 1% of the student population in the state of Indiana. And so, in simple terms, if that formula increased by $190 million, and we got our 1%, well, that would be $1.9 million new dollars to Warwick County Schools. Formula doesn't work that way because of these other factors. That's how much more money the state put into the education budget. However, it's split among these factors, and we don't get a lot of those dollars in some of the other areas. So our amount would be an increase, if our student population remained the same, about $920,000. So if we had the same number of students this year as we had last year, we would go up about $920,000, which is a pretty good amount of dollars, gives us some money to work with for our areas that I've been describing. However, during those times in which you're having declining enrollment, and let's just say for argument's sake, the number of students that we're reducing this year is 100, well, 100 at the $69.81 per student takes away almost $700,000 of that increase. So now our $920,000 increase is now a $220,000 increase. Well, when you've increased your available dollars by $220,000 and you've added staff, it certainly doesn't appear like you have a whole lot to work with for those other areas. However, we've got other sources of revenue that help offset that. But my point is on how this is calculated. Number of students in each of the areas, and you'll see the special education, the APCs, that's additional pupil count. And those, we get those additional dollars for higher level needs. The ELL that was asked about earlier, the English language, we also get additional dollars in that area. Academic honors diplomas, we get additional dollars for that. Career and tech. So there's additional dollars that are built into the funding formula for those areas. And so we get some monies for those as well. And some of those have some pretty good increases for this year. Questions about any of that before I move on? Okay. And I come back to this number of predictions here, the ADM. It's not my favorite number that's been happening here. I'm going to go to the bottom. The green is the estimated count for this year. Again, in 2016, you see the 10-228. Each of the years on here, I've separated out. I didn't want to put every year on here. But you can see in 2022, we were at 99.66. In 2024, which was the last year, we were at 9,900. This year, we're looking at a number closer to 9,800. So again, that 100 number I was utilizing is probably pretty close. Again, number of students reduces, increasing staffing because of the needs of the students, and funding being decreased makes the budgeting a little bit more difficult. Another source of funding, of course, for the operations fund and debt service is the tax base. This is your property taxes. And I normally go through and say since 2003, we've decreased taxes in Warwick County almost every year. We increased during this year we built a new school, et cetera. Bottom line is we've continued to be very prudent and conservative with our taxes. We had a decrease in tax rate last year. I predict, based on the things that we've put into our budget, we'll have a decrease in property tax this year again. And I say in the property tax rate. That does not necessarily mean you're going to pay less dollars. It means your rate has gone down, depending on what all the municipalities, et cetera, do. And what the AV of your personal property is, you could be paying more money with a lower rate. But the fact of the matter is Warwick County Schools, our debt service continues to be very level, slight decreases, and our operations fund continues to decrease as an inverse relationship to the assessed valuation. So.
Mr. Armstrong, one point there, maybe not a whole lot of people here, but maybe people listening in, could you just reiterate the point? If our tax rate stayed exactly the same, maybe but yet someone is seeing a much higher assessed value on their personal property.
They pay more taxes.
Okay.
Yes.
By whatever that percentage might be from last year's assessed value
until
of
they
your
hit
home.
until they hit the circuit breaker. Now,
Correct.
Last year there was some legislated property tax cuts that will last year and this year will come into play. And so some of the increases would be mitigated. But yes, if your property value, if the assessed valuation, now I always, you know, my wife and I have this discussion, because when the property value goes up and you have to pay a larger amount on taxes, and she gets pretty agitated with that statement, I always look at her and I go, but if we sold our house today,
Right.
the value of our house is much greater than it was. That would certainly offset the increase in taxes. So, I mean, that can happen. The
Right.
assessed values, I mean, we went up 7%. Net AV for the Warwick County is up 7% for this year. It was up 7.6% last year. It was up the year before that. So we've gone through a period of the last 4 years with some pretty good sized increases in our AVs.
Well, I think, yeah, that overall, you know, that's average, but if you look at, a lot of people just single households, property values, you know, property use went up significantly more than that. That
Yes.
doesn't lie at this board, right?
Right.
And if our value, you know, if our tax rate stays generally the same, you know,
They could be paying 75 or
right,
150
and that
or
is not
$100.
affected by what we're doing in our budgets.
No, we're actually maintaining a slightly decreasing tax rate
Right.
amidst the net AV increases, so.
Right.
I mean,
Okay, thank you.
very intentionally too. Now, just to give you some idea of what our numbers look like, because when you talk about the school corporation, the numbers are large. I mean, we're a big company. Our rainy day fund, the appropriation for the budget is $900,000. There's a zero missing. Debt service fund, $6.966 million. Education fund, we've got $84 million that we're requesting appropriations, and the operation fund, another 41. And what that means when you say appropriation request, that's asking permission in 2025 in those four funds to spend $133 million. Now, I assure you, we'll have more than $133 million next year. So I intentionally don't appropriate all the money we're going to have. My intention would be to have another $35 million on top of that. So we're appropriating a portion of it, a portion based on the expenses that we currently have, based upon the assumptions that we may have to increase health insurance, we may have to increase staffing, we may have to give pay raises. All of those things are built into this number. And of course, I guess I never really say this, our budget is available for the public to review. At any point, I keep a copy of the budget in a book available that breaks down every account number on how we have it appropriated. The capital projects plan and bus replacement plan are advertised, and they're available on our website, so you can take a purview of those anytime you want. And of course, the tax bases all go through the Department of Local Government Finance website. Anyways, so when we talk about the education fund, and this one's important because this is the one that pays for the instruction of the students of the school corporation. $57 million go out to salaries out of the education fund. 14.7 million are K-5, 8.6 million are 6-8, another 12.5 million on high school teachers, and then we've got our special ed categories outside of that is another 9.3 million. You got counselors, extracurriculars, almost 2 million, your administrators, 3.5 million, and then you got your employee benefits. And that number is usually kind of shocking when you think about your salaries are 57, your employee benefits are another 22 million. And what that represents, and again, in the transition to Google, the overlying, that debt service is supposed to be below the 94%. 94% of the education fund is spent on salaries and benefits, which is about right. Anything under 95 is pretty confident with, but 94% of that fund is salaries and benefits. Okay? The next section there is our debt service. We were talking about that. In 2025, we'll have two payments. One for the issue that we made to build the Pathway Center. We'll pay $3.1 million in 2025, and it pays out. We'll have that building paid off in 2027, just a couple years. And in 2024, we're issuing bonds. We'll have a 3.8 payment in 2024, another payment, or in 2025, another payment in 2026. And this issue that we're going to make will pay out in 2026. Now, that doesn't mean we won't continue to issue debt service. We've got lots of things we could spend that money on, But for now, we're maintaining the idea that we're not going to increase taxes in our area. So we're keeping that by controlling the numbers that we issue the bonds for, we can control the debt service, tax rate. In addition, the operations fund, I said earlier, is made up of transportation capital projects and bus replacement. When you look at those numbers, almost $10 million for transporting students, another $10 million just on capital projects, and those are building projects, various things that we do at all the different locations. Over $1 million to replace buses for a year, and then just the maintenance. That $7.8 million is the custodians and maintenance employees of the school corporation. And then there's some required things, these notices. This, of course, is advertised on the Department of Local Government Finance, but it's really important because this advertisement it's available, and it's what the Department of Local Government Finance deems taxpayers should be able to see. And what you see is an advertised rate or an advertised levy. And our advertised numbers in the middle of the page there are $6.3 million we would like to levy in taxes for debt service and $29 million for operations. Now, those numbers are higher than we will actually levy. Those are the numbers that we advertise so that if something happens to our assessed valuation and the dollars have to come back around, we still get the dollars we need for our budget. The most dollars we can actually levy in the operations fund is that 22.666 number that you see there. That is the estimated maximum operations levy. So even though we've advertised at a much higher tax rate, the rate that we have is much closer to the one that I showed you earlier. Again, bus replacement. This is just showing the buses that we plan on replacing, and one of them is the 2002. Generally speaking, our buses we try to replace around the 12 to 15-year-old mark, but that particular bus has been low service and been around for a long time. We're finally getting rid of it, and we're going to be adding a bus to our fleet, so our estimated bus replacement is this number here. This page, again, just shows, this is our capital projects, and if you went to the website, you could see our capital projects plan, which is about 100 pages long. And so each building has 3 years of costs allocated out for the various categories that fall into electrical work, construction, supplies, furniture, etc. But each of the buildings has money and this page is a summary of each of the buildings just for the $10 million that falls into capital projects. And then on this page, I will probably be a little bit less windy and more specific. The quote there, it's prudent to be a little bit cautious here. So we've got declining enrollment and increased staffing, and we would like to be able to give a pay raise, and we would like to continue to meet the needs of our students. But we have to do that and live within the confines of the budget and the revenues that we have. Again, when you've built up your cash balances a little bit, you can make those adjustments over time, and that will be our anticipation. Bottom line, in case you don't know who this John David Rainey is, he is a very well-paid chief financial officer. Anyway.
CFO humor. Oh, you guys. I thought Jeff might start laughing.
I'm
He's
just
the
like,
CFO of
another
Walmart.
joke.
He's the CFO of Walmart. Okay. Student population. Again, estimated to be down 427. And these are just summaries, things that we're paying attention to. 427 students since 2016. That's about 100 less than last year. The funding formula results in an increase in our revenue, even though we're having a student decline. There is no more transfer tuition to be charged for the 200 plus students that live outside the county that transfer here. No textbook rental is being charged. So those are losses of revenues that we had as sources of revenue. Now they're no longer existent. We will meet all legislated teacher salary benefit thresholds. Currently, the teacher salary threshold is a minimum of 40,000. We're at 45,000 for first-year teachers, so we're well above that. And when I say salary benefit, the state has legislated that you spend 62% of your state tuition support on salaries and benefits of teachers. They haven't actually been able to accumulate the data as they're supposed to, but we're right in between 65 and 66%, so we're well above that threshold. The ESSER money is gone, but the effects of COVID are still here, indicating with the students having greater needs, and we have more employees. Tax rate is going to be nearly the same, it's going to decrease. The net AV up 7%. Again, our student enrollment would be down almost 600 students if it weren't for the out-of-county transfers. Cash balance systematically decline as we manage our funding cliff. Again, I use 25, 26, 27 to balance that out. We should settle into a number. Capital projects needs continue to be higher than the monies available, particularly in the HVAC replacement situation. Our overall budget, excluding grants, is 133 plus million. We have our student counts in October and February. Those are the dates in which we actually count the number of students that our funding is based on. The maximum levy growth quotient is 4%. That's capped by legislation for the past 2 years. Ours is actually higher than that in Indiana, but we can only gain 4%. And that 4% is the number that's applied to our operations levy, so that our operations levy can go up that 4%. Circuit breaker estimate, again, that's lost dollars because the individuals that actually hit the circuit breaker and stop paying taxes at a certain number. And so we have some lost tax revenue in that case. Our cash balances are earning valuable interest. We are able to, with the cash balances that we maintain, we've got those monies invested. We're earning some valuable interest that we can spend on what I call one-time things. Spending in 2024 this year is going to be less than the 97% of the appropriations that we asked for last year. So that's a good thing. That accounts for some of our cash balance. And finally, I found this really funny because this came in a 9-page document from the Distressed Unit Appeal Board. And Abby can appreciate this. This is the board that wanted us, it's DUAB, they wanted us to prove that we had planned for our funding cliff. And so they sent out a document that told us how to do it. And it said, school corporations are multi-million-dollar organizations. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. I mean, okay. Spend less than you take in. Maintain adequate reserves. Have a plan to reduce temporary operating expenses increased from COVID. Don't overreact to building capacity issues. And be aware of one-time or limited time funding sources. Now, I jest in the sense that, I mean, these to me are obvious, but it was just funny that it took them 7 pages to say that. So I did appreciate what they were saying, but common sense. Questions? Staying at the podium was very difficult for me, Jane.
Sorry.
But I
You did
understand.
good job. I think Mr. Post has a
I've
question.
got one more quick question.
Sure.
I saw a thing that the state gives out to each school corporation. I can't remember what they call the fund. It's like for safety for the school. And our corporation gets $81,000. What does that $81,000 go to?
It helps pay for our resource officers. That is our SSSG grant. We're supposed to get 100,000, but they're short on their revenue sources. And so they just simply say you don't get as much money. So we're getting 81,000. That 81,000 will be used to pay the Warwick County Sheriff's Department. Portion, we have an agreement with them, and we pay a portion of resource officer salaries to the county with that money. You're welcome.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Armstrong.
You bet.
I hope everyone heard him say, despite all of the challenges that he posed and presented and showed, we have very intentionally been planning for all of this, and we are well positioned to be in great shape for the coming years. So,
Dr. Redmond, you mentioned a couple times about declining enrollment. Maybe you could just touch on, is that just our district? or
It does not
everywhere?
appear to be just our district. We have had lower kindergarten enrollment the last several years, and I think, how many years in a row now, Todd? Is it
Well,
4?
6 out of the last 7.
Okay,
We had the 1-year spike, the first year coming out of COVID. Those kids came to first grade, some of them came to kindergarten, but we got a really nice spike in kindergarten for 1 year. Other than that, they're the smallest grade levels of the corporation.
when I have reached out to both our local superintendent's group, and then I'm part of a group that we meet on just a Friday Zoom meeting, and these are superintendents from across the state. A lot of people this year saw decline in kindergarten enrollment yet again. So I would not say that this was just indicative of Warwick County. We're curious, we're still looking to try to determine, like, is it just decline in birth rate? Is it decline in number of children people are choosing to have? Are they choosing different options, things like that? We haven't been able to tell for Warwick County exactly what that indicator is, but we're still searching, but it does match what I'm hearing from other superintendents across the state.
Do you think the voucher program affects?
I think there's a whole bunch of factors, and each one of them pulls a few kids.
Yes,
I don't think you're gonna be able to pinpoint a single thing, but there are a number of things, and when you pull a few here, and a few there, and a few there, it adds up. I mean, I think this year's kindergarten is probably an anomaly, an unusually low number, but
We
we'll know
would-
next year.
we would love to be able to pull some of that data. Linda, we have found, as an example, I would love to see how many students are participating in online programming. If they were our students and then have left us, we know those children. But if they never started with us, we don't have any way to gather that information. It's not posted anywhere. Our Department of Ed is not giving us that information. So those are some areas and other things we're looking at. But I do think Todd's right. I think it's, maybe 10 kids are doing this and 20 kids are choosing this. And that's possible, but it also may just be possible that our birth rate is down
Right.
across the state.
Doesn't the Farm Bureau or one of the organizations locally calculate those things and put out a booklet with that information?
I'm not sure about Farm Bureau, but our Warwick County Economic Development Group is doing some work in this area right now, and they have been gathering, they've been doing a combination of some survey data, but also are looking at pulling birth rate data as well, and they're gonna have a comprehensive report for some planning that they wanna do across the county, but of course, Mr. Raleigh knows I'm interested in that as well,
Okay,
and we
good.
will be
That would
able to
be
have
good.
that at our fingertips as well once it's
That would
complete.
be good to know.
Yes,
I
agreed.
don't know if this would equate, but for whatever reason, I had was able to talk with 3 different parents this week, and two of them are already homeschooling, and one said he's probably going to homeschool. One of them was Evansville, and a couple of them here, but they said they are bringing the kids into school going to start them in school in middle school. So I don't know if they're just gonna try homeschooling for a shorter period of time and bringing them in, because they do want them to have more of the social, and at least by freshman high school, they'll bring them in. But they just said, at least for right now, they're homeschooling. So I don't know if we're having some of that, or an increase in that. And I talked to there's another person I talked to last week. There were a group of 150 parents or children who get together and do the socializing, and they do in Warwick County. And but some of those, again, they don't all do it all through. At some point, they will send them to school, they said.
Sure. And again, I would say that for students who have started with us and then withdraw to homeschool, we have not seen a big increase in that number.
No.
We just don't have a number if somebody starts their
Right.
children with homeschool, and we've never had them
Exactly.
in Warwick County. That's the number we're having difficulty finding.
But I think it's also important to point that when you look at that budget, that we as a public school corporation provide special ed services to all the students of Warwick County, whether they're in public education or in private parochial schools. So, that, I think,
That's correct.
and we have an outstanding program that draws people to our community, but it's not, when you say that money, it's not just going for our kids, it's going to support the kids in the other schools that are private schools.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
I'm out.
Okay, I would like to call, are there any more questions from anyone? Okay, well, we will close the public hearing and resume our regular board meeting. Moving on to agenda item 6B, second reading of updated policy 2435, teacher appreciation grant. Dr. Redmond.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilhelmus. In your board packet, you will find a copy of the updated policy 2435, teacher appreciation grant. Each year, the Indiana Department of Education requires school corporations to readopt this policy. The only changes to the policy from previous years are to the dates within the policy and the removal of the discussion language due to a change in Indiana law. This yearly policy update is for distribution of the teacher appreciation grant monies for teachers who were highly effective or effective on their evaluation from last year and who are employed with us on December 1st, 2024. The first reading took place at the last board meeting, August 26th. Tonight, we will have a second reading, and at which time the board may take action. Teacher appreciation grant received by the Warwick County School Corporation shall be allocated among and used only to pay cash stipends to all licensed teachers employed in Warwick County School Corporation classrooms who are rated as effective or highly effective during the 2023-24 school year. That's the date change, and employed by the school as of December 1st, 2024. That is the second date change, and those are the only two changes to the policy. I recommend the board approve the policy as presented.
More than happy to make that motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Mosby, second by Mr. Franz. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item 6C, consider adding high school course offering. Dr. Redmond.
Thank you. In your board packet, you will find a request from the Director of Learning, Mr. Jason Fisher, to add the following high school offering for the 2024-25 school year: Advanced Manufacturing Special Topics. I recommend the board approve this course as presented.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Baker, a second by Mrs. Glover. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. And item 6D, consider accepting donations. Dr. Redmond.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilhelmus. In your board packet, you will find the following donation requests for Chandler Elementary School. Deaconess Heart Hospital Heart Saver Program would like to donate 2 Zoll Power Heart G5 AED machines at a value of $1,650 each. At Tecumseh High School, we have several donations. $1,418.33 from the THS class of 2024 to the THS class of 2025 to be used as needed. Also at Tecumseh, $500 donation from Custom Sign and Engineering to the volleyball program for sponsorship to be used as needed. Another $500 donation from Scales Excavating to the THS volleyball program to be used as needed. And one final $500 donation from L&B Community Bank to the THS volleyball program for sponsorship to be used as needed. I recommend the board approve the donations.
I move to approve those donations.
We have a motion by Mrs. Glover, a second by Mrs. Metzger. Is there any discussion? What a great night for Tecumseh volleyball.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Let's go play
And for the other donations. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next is Human Resources. Dr. Grushman.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilhelmus. The Human Resource Office has the following business for the board tonight. Agenda item A, consideration of employment, certified staff positions, Brenda Dunn, a temporary special education teacher at Newburgh Elementary School, and support staff positions, Jesse Smith, a school social worker at Chandler Elementary, Tara Payne, program assistant at Castle High, Stephanie Stoner, ABS program assistant at Castle South, Stephen Arnold, program assistant at Castle South, Dawn Vincent, 3.75-hour cafeteria position at Boonville High, Madison Campbell, program assistant at Newburgh Elementary, Kadisa Rhodes, 6.5-hour cafeteria position at Castle South, Jessica Voles, school nurse at Chandler Elementary and Castle North Middle, Shalini Baghel, program assistant at WEC Preschool, Eli James and Stephen Adams, HVAC Class C maintenance.
We have a motion by Mr. Franz,
I'll second.
a second by Mrs. Glover. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Dr. Gresham?
Thank you. Agenda item B, leave request. Chris Von Cannon, nurse at Newburgh Elementary School, Castle South Middle School, and Sharon Elementary School, and Angel Thacker, a 6.0-hour cafeteria position at Newburgh Elementary School.
I move to approve the leave request.
We have a motion by Mrs. Glover, a second by Mr. Mosby. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Agenda item C, resignations. Megan Davis, program assistant at Loga Elementary, resignation effective September 10th, 2024. Gail Taft, bus driver, resignation effective August 7th, 2024. Matt McIntyre, second grade teacher at Newburgh Elementary School, resignation effective December 31st, 2024. Caitlin Rice, program assistant at Newburgh Elementary School, resignation effective September 5th, 2024. Amanda Cook, temporary job share program assistant at Sharon Elementary School, resignation effective September 20th, 2024. And agenda item D, retirements. Jennifer Durr, second grade teacher at Yankeetown Elementary School, retirement effective June 1st, 2024. Oh, excuse me, that should be 2025.
Oh, okay.
June 1st, 2025.
Thank you, Dr. Gresham.
Question, Dr.
Dr.
Gresham,
Gresham?
how are we in numbers? Have you pretty much, are you, like in hiring? Do you have all your positions filled? Of course, we have these resignations here, but how are the numbers coming out?
We're in a very good place right now. We have filled all the positions that were posted, say, as of prior to August 20th. The only things we're trying to fill right now are positions that have opened since then.
Right.
And they're all part-time positions.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 8, reports. Dr. Redmond.
We do not have a report tonight since we had our budget hearing, but just a reminder that next board meeting is on Wednesday, September 25th.
And agenda item number 9, other board business. We have personnel October 14th. And then tomorrow we have a construction meeting at 7:30 at the admin office. And then our next construction meeting after that will follow the personnel on October 15th. But I'll remind everyone of that later. So tomorrow, construction, 7:30, admin office, and then October 14th for our next personnel. We have policy.
Policy and Curriculum Committee will meet October 14th, 5:30 here at Central Services.
Special Education and Transportation has a committee meeting on October the 3rd at 8:30. Administration Building.